All right, let's try this. Maybe without headphones today. So, as you can see, I didn't quite manage to finish yesterday's goal setting. But if we move possible to see Monday? There is Monday. Yes. Man, paper is such a leave it somewhere invention. All right. While we think about where that could be, intro. So basically today, wait, let me reconfigure my intro here. I'm going to do some pretty extreme things the next couple of weeks that most of anyone who knows me, who's still around, would think is pretty controversial. I think most people would agree with that, but changing direction right now would cost me a massive amount of time. And so I have to do some quite extreme things, and that means that in order for this not to get back to people who might try to impact my decision making or hold back this very approach that I'm going for, I'm staying anonymous for the time being, at least until this project is either successful or not. And if it's not successful, I will probably never stop being anonymous. Until then, I'm just practicing, essentially becoming good on camera. And as you can see, that's a work in progress. So here's the weekly plan. I don't have an exact purpose of the week laid out yet, except we're trying to catch up to the lack of funds in the bank account so that we can last at least another month. Now the thing is, if we implement this Airbnb plan here sooner rather than later, well then we can probably stretch the project, instead of having it 60 days, stretching it to 90 days. So I'm gonna try, despite these projects being very, several days in length, I'm gonna try to get it all done tomorrow. Now, because I haven't done any code at all up until now, and it's really bothering me a lot, I'm gonna focus the whole day on coding. And if I could find the daily plan, here we go. Basically, I've been planning up until now. I actually wanted to start earlier with the filming and editing, but turns out I also wanted to make tomorrow's plan for some reason. So yeah, I should probably still stick to my 7 o'clock rule. And just after I'm done with this filming and editing, I'm going to send a message to my last employee, and I'm going to send a message to the server client. And then at 10, I'm going to do a backup income phone call, and I'm going to do factoring. I can say I have just gotten an email from them this morning. So we'll see. I'm still not certain if it's possible, and if it is possible at all, it has to be done this week, and so that I might even move it up till 9, and then have the factoring move up as well, because as it stands right now, we still don't have enough money to pay our expenses by 8 days, right? And so there's the factoring, there's the client, and there's the selling of items. Those are the only income sources until Airbnb is ready. All right, so the filming and editing is really, actually, let's stick to our flow here. Yesterday, MSOPs took longer, and the backup plan, the Airbnb plan, was not planned to happen there, and it took longer than I planned, and then there was camera setup issues. It was a pretty hectic, pretty wasteful day, despite coming up with something that's very reasonable considering the situation. Filming and editing ended up with me starting the fast editing setup, which is up there. You can't see it, but basically it is in effect making it much easier for me to record and edit these videos. I think it's cut down from 1 hour total maybe to just 30 minutes total. For if I make these videos 15 minutes, then it will maybe be 30 minutes total for these videos. The weekly plan didn't get completely finished. My parents called me around here, and for some reason I thought it was a good idea to clean up while talking to them, and it took 1.5 hours, which, you know, it's nice, but if I could have talked to my parents for just half an hour, I would maybe have done the pull-up bar and the PC cable. But that's the thing, right? We're always behind on something. And so in order to not get further behind on this, I'm just going to say phone calls in general can be dangerous, and also just hanging out with friends, which I don't do anymore except for Tuesdays, tomorrow, for 3 hours. If we have to look at other things that could have been improved, I think, of course, the weekly plan you could potentially make an argument for having the weekly plan up here. The filming and editing on Sundays needs to be set in stone, and I need to be at a stage where I'm not feeling so behind on everything that I skip my routines, and change the routines on the spot. Now, MSOPs, they're pretty solid, except the order by which I do them is probably making me waste a bunch of time, because this is rolled down and I don't feel like rolling it back up because it will cut the corners. I have all these stupid excuses. So what could we have done better here? Extra sleep is okay. MSOPs, faster. How? With flow. a paper just like this that illustrates how to go through the MSOPs. The backup plan shouldn't have happened. This is now fixed, but it shouldn't have happened. This took a long time. Should have been faster. But since it's fixed now, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The weekly planning should have followed the framework. Pull-up bar, PC cable, I should have cut this down. Evening routine. I did go to bed early, so that's good. But all of these, they weren't done. So, keep pushing those forward. And I'm out of magnets, but Amazon is going to deliver more magnets today. And I think that will be the last batch that we're going to be able to afford for a while. Have to be more, have to use them a bit more sparingly, or recycle them more. I'm trying to use some old magnets here. Use one of the last ones here. And we're just going to stick to the weekly framework here. But as everything's always very hectic, it's really hard to get a routine in place because suddenly we have money. And that wasn't the plan to begin with. Improvements. Yesterday goes today. So what do we have to watch out for here? Here I'm going to work with Assure. And there's a bunch of things that are not set up correctly, but I should just focus on this thing alone. And then I also need to configure API for custom server setup. Then once we have the hardware trained, that will take 4 hours, but I can work on the logic meanwhile. And so there's 2 types of hot words. There's the one where it goes like, right? And hey, Casper. And so that one will take whatever was said in the past, and this one will record a new command that will also include the past context. Then there's the recording logic. Now, I might already have made a pretty solid framework for this, but implementing it with the hot word logic here is going to require me to think about either I fuse it with the history, or I think instead of talking about this for a long time, we're gonna take it, and I'm gonna do it in the time frame. You can see I'm leaving a lot of buffer. So if I do these things, I will be satisfied. Potentially there's going to be space for a lot more. But since it's been 2 weeks, or 4 weeks maybe, since I coded on this project, I doubt everything's going to work out as planned. So that's the scope of things. I think that's it for today. And as you can see, the week in general, Wednesday is going to be more bureaucratic, catch up on all the things that I'm behind on. There's some really serious things that I'm behind on that I'm not going to put on today, which in general I might just have to give up on because it's such a massive time sink doing bookkeeping for a whole year. It's going to cost me, almost a week of time, which I just can't afford. So I think I might have to do approximate reports. And of course can't pay anyone to do it. Responding to an intern, I'm seeing that. I think we'll just have to consider that mission a failure, because I never did it in a reasonable time frame. What's that, like 10 days ago I was supposed to get back to them, but there's just been so much. And I've been talking to my ex-co-founder. And of course, it's such a time sink, right? Let's get started. First, some editing. But it will only take a short amount of time.